This is the true story of Union Pacific Big Boy number 4014, based on verified historical records from Union Pacific Railroad, the American Locomotive Company archives, and the Smithsonian Institution. All dates, specifications, and events have been fact-checked against primary sources. This locomotive exists today and operates in excursion service. Imagine a machine so massive, so powerful, so impossibly hungry that it could devour 12 tons of coal in a single hour. Not a day, not a shift, an hour. That's 25,000 pounds of black rock transformed into steam, smoke, and raw unstoppable power. Wyoming, 1941. The American Locomotive Company's workers stepped back as the final rivets were driven home. Before them sat something the world had never seen. 133 feet long, 600 tons of steel, brass, and ambition, 16 massive driving wheels, a boiler that could hold enough steam to level a city block if it ever let go. They called it Big Boy. It wasn't a nickname from engineers or executives. Story goes, some unknown worker just chalked it on the smoke box, and the name stuck. 25 of these giants would be built. 25 mechanical monsters designed for one purpose, to conquer the Wasatch Mountains of Utah, where grades reached 1.14% and freight trains died on the climb. Union Pacific had a problem. Moving 3,600 tons of freight over those mountains required 2 locomotives, helper engines, and prayers. It was slow, expensive, inefficient. So they asked ALCO, build us something that can do it alone. What emerged wasn't just a locomotive. It was a statement, an impossibility made real. And at its heart burned an appetite that would define an era and haunt the men who fed it. Before we dive deeper into this mechanical monster, hit that subscribe button. This is the kind of engineering story they don't teach in schools, and I've got dozens more coming your way. Let's continue. To understand what Big Boy represented, you need to understand what came before. Steam locomotives had been getting bigger for decades. More wheels, longer boilers, higher pressures, but they always hit the same wall. Physics. Make them too heavy and they'd crack the rails. Make them too long and they couldn't navigate curves. Make them too powerful and the firebox couldn't keep up. Every solution created 3 new problems. The Wasatch Range route was Union Pacific's nightmare. Ogden to Green River. 175 miles of relentless climbing. Trains would slow to a crawl. Boilers would struggle. Schedules meant nothing. During World War II, when every ton of freight mattered, this bottleneck became intolerable. Enter Otto Jabelmann, head of Union Pacific's research and mechanical standards. He didn't think small. Working with ALCO, he took their Challenger locomotives and reimagined everything. Bigger firebox, more driving wheels, articulated frame that could bend around curves despite being longer than a passenger train car. But the real innovation was in the appetite. That massive firebox measured 235 by 96 inches. It needed constant feeding, not shovelfuls, not wheelbarrows. An automated stoker capable of delivering 12.5 tons per hour when the throttle was wide open. The cost? Over $250,000 per locomotive in 1941, money, enough to buy 60 houses. But Union Pacific didn't hesitate. They ordered 20 immediately and the first arrived in December. Big Boy number 4014 rolled onto Union Pacific property ready for war. Not the war overseas, but the war against gravity, distance, and time. The specifications read like fiction. 488, 4-wheel arrangement. That's 4 pilot wheels up front, 2 sets of 8 driving wheels, and 4 trailing wheels supporting the firebox. 16 drivers total, each one 68 inches tall. The boiler ran at 300 pounds of pressure, hot enough that a pinhole leak could cut a man in half. The articulation was the key. Unlike rigid frame locomotives, Big Boy's front engine could pivot independently. This let all that length navigate curves that would derail anything else. It was elegant brutality, mechanical poetry written in steel. When fully loaded and climbing the Wasatch grade, 4014 became something primal. The automatic stoker clawed coal from the tender and hurled it into the firebox. Flames roared, steam screamed through superheater tubes. Water injectors pumped 12,000 gallons per hour just to keep the boiler fed. Inside that firebox, temperatures exceeded 2,000 degrees. The grates glowed cherry red. Coal didn't just burn, it exploded into heat energy that turned water into steam that expanded 1,600 times its liquid volume. That expanding steam drove pistons, pistons drove rods, rods turned drivers, and those drivers gripped the rails and pulled. April 1943, test run, Ogden to Evanston, full throttle, 6,290 horsepower. The instruments couldn't believe the readings. The dynamometer car told the truth. Engineers had borrowed it from the Santa Fe Railroad because Union Pacific's own equipment couldn't measure what Big Boy was capable of. They needed to know, what could this monster actually do? The numbers came back and changed everything. At full throttle, climbing grade, 4014 consumed 11 tons of coal per hour, not the maximum 12.5 the stoker could deliver, but close enough to make firemen's eyes widen. 12,000 gallons of water evaporated into steam every 60 minutes. The drawbar horsepower peaked at numbers that made diesel locomotive engineers go quiet. This wasn't just powerful, this was a new category of machine. Over the next 18 years, Big Boy 4014 became a legend to the crews who ran it. Brakemen said, "Best mountain engine we ever had." Firemen who watched that coal disappear into the firebox like a black waterfall added, "They can say all they want about diesels, but when it comes right down to it, these are tough to beat on the hill." The locomotive racked up over 1 million miles, through mountain passes, across deserts, in blizzards and heat waves. It hauled freight trains exceeding 4,000 tons, trains so long you couldn't see the caboose from the engine. And it did it alone. No helpers, no excuses. But every age ends, even for giants. If this story is blowing your mind, drop a comment below. Tell me, would you have wanted to be the fireman feeding this beast, or the engineer commanding it? I want to know. And while you're at it, share this with someone who loves real engineering. They'll thank you. The same appetite that made Big Boy unstoppable became its death sentence. By the late 1950s, the math had shifted. Diesel-electric locomotives didn't need water towers every 100 miles. They didn't need coal. They didn't need an army of mechanics at every terminal. They didn't consume 12 tons of fuel per hour. Union Pacific did the calculations, operating costs, maintenance, labor. The diesels won, not because they were more powerful, not because they were faster, because they were cheaper. The romance of steam couldn't fight accounting ledgers. July 24, 1959, 4014 made its final revenue run, Laramie to Cheyenne, the same route it had conquered thousands of times, but this time, when it rolled into the roundhouse, the fires were dropped for what everyone assumed was forever. 2 years later, December 7, 1961, Union Pacific donated it to the Railway and Locomotive Historical Society in Pomona, California. It arrived in January 1962 wearing fresh paint and became a tourist attraction, a relic, a reminder of when machines had souls and appetites. For 51 years, 4014 sat silent in the California sun. Children climbed on it, photographers circled it, enthusiasts debated whether it would ever move again. The dry climate preserved it better than any museum could have planned. But in the back rooms of Union Pacific headquarters, someone was doing different math. December 2012, a story breaks. Union Pacific is considering something impossible, something unprecedented. They want to restore a Big Boy, not for static display, for operation July 23, 2013. The announcement becomes official. Union Pacific has acquired Big Boy 4014. They're bringing it home to Cheyenne. They're going to make it run. The railroad world holds its breath. 3 years of meticulous restoration, original blueprints, custom forgings weighing 1,000 pounds each, boiler tests that could have ended in disaster, the decision to convert from coal to fuel oil, learning from the failed 1946 experiment with number 4005. May the 1st, 2019, 9 p.m. The doors of the Cheyenne Steam Shop open, and for the first time in 58 years, Big Boy 4014 moves under its own power, not towed, not pushed, under its own steam. 2 days later, it makes a test run to Greeley. Then on to Ogden for the 150th anniversary of the Transcontinental Railroad. Over 1 million people turn out to see it, to hear that whistle, to feel the ground shake. Today, 4014 is the world's largest operational steam locomotive. It tours, it inspires, it reminds us that some hungers, some appetites, some impossible ambitions deserve to be fed. The beast that ate coal lives again, and when that whistle screams across the prairie, it's not nostalgia you're hearing, it's defiance. It's proof that giants, once awakened, refuse to sleep forever. Big Boy 4014 still runs today. Union Pacific takes it on tour. You can actually see this legend in person. If you want to know when and where, I've linked Union Pacific's steam schedule in the description. And if this story moved you, do me a favor, hit that like button, subscribe for more deep dives into mechanical history, and I'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching.